Well, hello, everyone. Happy Friday and welcome to the September Slow Flowers member meetup. Thank you all for joining us. I was just telling our guests, this is like the most number of guests we've ever had. So we have a lot of moving parts. We're super ambitious for our comeback this September. I hope you all had a great summer. I feel like we're coming back to school from summer vacation, but I've had this topic on my mind for a long time about, well, all year since I've seen so many Slow Flowers members in relative terms popping up and opening retail spaces. And I've just thought it's really a terrific phenomenon. So I've asked 4 people to come on in and introduce us to their retail space and just talk a little bit about what led them to make this decision and how it's impacting their business. And so we're gonna have fun. And if you have questions, pop them in the chat, and we'll be sure to get those asked to the appropriate one or to the group. So I want to just sort of start out with some housekeeping. I want to introduce the Slow Flowers team. Of course, many of you, if you're return attendees to the monthly meetup, you know Nisha Blancas, our social media manager. Nisha's been doing some beautiful social media around this event and everything else you do. Thank you, Nisha. Do you want to say anything about collecting names for the drawing?
Yeah, if you can rename yourself in the Zoom call, you can either add your business name to your actual name on the side. That would be really helpful. And if you can't figure that out quite quickly, you can also just add your business name in the chat, and then I'll collect that for the drawing later.
Great. And we have 2 giveaways. One is a set of Slow Flowers pins, our collector pins. I was so excited to wear my denim jacket yesterday, finally, so I had them on the pocket. So that'll be one giveaway. And the other is going to be the gift bag, also known as the swag bag, from this past June's Slow Flowers Summit, which is chock full of some really cool stuff. So we'll make those drawings over the weekend and let people know next week and get them out in the mail to you. Thanks, Nisha. I want to also introduce somebody who's just joined the Slow Flowers team, Tonali Gruder, and she's taking over community engagement and membership. Hi, Tonali.
Hi, everybody. It's good to see everyone here, and I'm so excited to see a full room. So really excited to get to know everyone a little bit better. I don't know you already.
Yes, and Tonali is a longtime Slow Flowers member. She and her mother have a flower farm called Salty Acres Farm here in Washington State. But she's sort of like one of those triple threats. She can farm, she can design, and she can do community engagement. So I'm really happy that you've joined the team, Tonali, and people will get to know you. This is like week 3 for you. So people will get to know you soon. And then thanks. And do you want to say anything else, Tonali? Karen's putting your email address in the chat. So that's good.
Yeah, just, I'm very much an open door. So if any of our members ever want to reach out, you can find me at membership at slowflowers.com. And I'm just excited to get to know everybody. Yeah, I love flowers and I love people. So it's a great place to be.
Yeah, that's a gift. So thank you so much, Tonali. And you're going to help me with fielding some questions today too, I think. And then Karen Thornton, our operations and events manager, is, I don't think she's live on the screen, but she's here to answer questions too. So you want to say anything, Karen?
Hi, no, it's good to be back.
All right, great. Okay, so what we're going to do is meet our 4 guests, and they're all Slow Flowers members, and they have different approaches, either flower farming, being farmer florists, or being florists, and they've all moved from studio to or barn or kitchen to retail. And so I want to introduce them all right now, and then we're going to just go one at a time and kind of get like speed dating. We're going to get a crash course introduction to everybody. So first I want to introduce Laura Mewbourn of Feast and Flora. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Deborah.
I'm so glad to feature you, and you're not in your shop, so you sent us a video. So we're going to start with that. And then after Laura, we'll meet Lisa Larson of Sunborn Gardens. Hi, Lisa. And then Kat Willrett of Willrett Flower Co, and she's in the green. Hi, Kat. And maybe your sister Mary Grace will pop in and say hi too, right? There she
She's
Then-
back here
Hi.
somewhere.
And then Tamara Hough of Morning Glory Flowers we're going to show a video of her shop if we can. We're trying to process it really quickly. So we asked her to go last. So I think I'm going to go ahead and ask Karen to play the video that Laura created to show Feast and Flora. And then I'm going to ask everybody, all of our guests in succession to just answer 3 questions. And if you have others, please put them in the chat because we'll try to slide those to our guests. What prompted you to open a retail space? What need is it filling? Like what pain point has it solved? Or, what new purpose is it serving for you and your business? And then how is it helping you expand your market through community building or brand recognition, and sort of give us a temperature read on how that's going so far? Because all of these have opened in 2022. So we're here in on the ground floor. So Karen, I'll go ahead and let you start the video and that Laura shared of Feast and Flora, and then we'll put her on the screen and I'll ask her some questions.
Welcome to Feast and Flora Design Studio. We opened the space in spring 2021 as a storefront to our cut flower farm, located 30 minutes away on Wadmalaw Island. We offer a range of gifts, home goods, and houseplants, as well as our locally grown florals. The gift shop is the inspiration of many little trips to my favorite boutique in Key West, Florida. My love language is gift giving, but I know that's not the case for everyone. My hope is to create a spot where customers go to purchase a gift for someone when they're not quite sure what to buy. They know they'll find the perfect gift with us and probably a few things for themselves as well. I started the farm in 2016 and I've had a robust wedding and event studio since 2018, but running a retail shop has been a crash course in some of the finer points of business. Commercial real estate in the city can be cutthroat. Finding and setting up accounts with merchandise wholesalers is a full-time job on its own. And finally, getting bodies physically into a space to make purchases is a completely new experience to me. We've been really fortunate to connect with a lot of local makers and artisans. Some of our products are here on consignment, whereas some are purchased in a more traditional wholesale arrangement. Opening this space meant I had to hire my first strictly design and retail position. I was really fortunate to hire a longtime designer with years of experience in retail floristry. There's no way I could do what I'm doing without her and without my full-time farm manager. The need for a proper design space is what really prompted this project. Until this year, we were working out of my tiny garage studio until we could no longer squish anything else in there. This dream design space gives us amazing lighting through these huge windows, custom shelving left from the previous tenant, space for an office, although it desperately needs to be designed and organized, space to host workshops, and space for the walk-in cooler of my dreams. The cooler is run off of a CoolBot, and the AC drains directly into the hallway. It doesn't drain a lot, but it is enough that we put a Rubbermaid container underneath just to catch anything. It can be a little loud, particularly when you're in the cooler and can't hear anything at all out front, but we plan to hang curtains to muffle the sound of the condenser a little bit more in the hallway. Retail is not for everyone, but this new venture really makes a lot of practical sense for our business. And as someone who enjoys complex tasks and decisions, it's really a good fit for me as well.
Oh my gosh, wasn't that great? I loved it. It was so great. Thank you so much, Laura.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm not going to go into like film editing anytime soon.
Oh no, I think it's great. Well, I think I misspoke. I didn't really, you mentioned in the video that you opened in 2021. Is that correct?
No, I don't know what year it is. It's 22. It was spring of this year.
Okay, we all understand completely. Well, let everybody know where you're at and what is Feast and Flora, what has it been and what led you to opening the retail space?
Right. So I created Feast and Flora back in 2016 when I first started farming. 2017 is when we really got started going on a commercial level. And I started out the way many flower farms start, which is farmers markets. And, you know, that's probably well and good for some people, but it is not a good fit for me. And so I started researching other potential revenue streams, and of course landed on weddings and events. From a price markup standpoint, is kind of a no-brainer.
Mhm.
So I've been really focusing on that since 2018, which was great until the pandemic. And as the bulk of my income came from weddings and events that all of a sudden canceled or
Yeah.
postponed,
Yeah.
I began to realize just how much I had sort of shoved us into a corner of relying on these public spaces and to hold up our business.
Right.
And we were doing a little bit of retail stuff, but it definitely wasn't the focal point of the business. It was people had to know to go to our website to place an order. We couldn't always fill orders. And, you know, it just wasn't an ideal situation. And from the wedding business standpoint, once things got rescheduled and going again, we were working out of the tiniest studio garage ever. It was awful. I was really glad to have it when I had it, but very quickly it was just unmanageable. So a little like a year and a half ago, I started looking for a commercial space, and it took a solid year of multiple false leads and failed lease agreements and, you know, commercial real estate. Until we finally landed the space. And when I walked into the space, everything fell into place so quickly, in the way I think things often do when you're headed in the right direction. So I love the space. It's got a little bit of walk-in traffic in front. It is a very busy street, and it's very spacious. I'm not sure you could tell it from the video, but in terms of being a space that we can grow into and sort of shift around as we need it, if we need it for more studio space, it definitely works well for that. So really, we would have needed the space anyway, and it's really unfortunate that it's timed when it was, but it was the only way for our business to grow. So here
And
we are.
are you in Charleston, South Carolina proper, or is it you said the neighborhood has some foot traffic, so
Yeah,
give us a picture.
it is in the city of Charleston, and it's in an area called West Ashley, which is 10-15 minutes from the downtown area. So we're far enough away not to have to pay downtown real estate prices, but close enough that if clients want to get to us, like for a wedding consult, it's fairly easy. But most of our wedding clients are from out of state. Some don't even see their venue till the day of. So having a space for consults, it's nice, but it was not a priority. I was going after the local traffic that really for the last 5 years have sort of evaded us.
That's a good
though
question.
we're really unique in what we do, and particularly in comparison to the other people in the area.
Well, also you're unique because you're growing so much of what you're designing with. So during the pandemic, did you find that you did pivot to retail as a direct to consumer kind of format, just to pay, get money through the door and pay for those flowers?
Sure. When the pandemic, when I realized things were going to go badly, our field was in peak spring condition, like absolutely chock full of flowers. And I had no idea what I was going to do. So I picked up the phone and called a little boutique grocery store downtown in the heart of the historic district, and said, do you have any interest in carrying flowers? And so we launched a grocery wholesale program out of that. And for a long time, that was the bulk of what we were doing. And people were so grateful to have access to locally grown stuff in the middle of the pandemic. It really went very well. All of the florists that we were selling to wholesale also pivoted to retail. So we ended up selling most of everything we could cut in the spring 2020. So in that weird time frame, we did pivot to retail. And because the world was what it was at that time, it was pretty effortless to do that. What changed was when when that weird period ended, I think, and people started going back to normal. Business didn't launch right back to normal. The supply chain certainly wasn't normal. And so it's been a really interesting ride.
Yeah.
So my goals now are to create as many solid revenue streams as possible, just so we never find ourselves pushed back into a corner like that again.
Yeah. Hey, Tonali has a question. Why don't you jump in, Tonali, and just pose it? And everyone might want to address this in their turn.
So it looks like, ironically, it looks like Sydney kind of asked the same exact thing at the same time. So it's always amazing. I think that, as floral professionals, I think that so many Slow Flowers members already know about being dynamic, and this is a great example of it. But with being dynamic, how do you find your balance? Do you have set farm days in your week? Does it change seasonally? Do you have, are you very structured in your schedule, or would you say that you have day to day is how you're deciding where you should be and when?
It depends on how busy I am. My brain is sort of tornado-like. And so when things are slower, then yes, my day can get very structured with to-do list and schedules. I don't really have set days out on the farm just because I am not organized at all. I've hired people around me to organize me, and but for the grace of them go I. So I have a full-time farm manager, I have a full-time shop manager. None of this would be happening without them. So I rely a lot on them to keep us all organized. They also all have their own organizational challenges. And I think we're very free in acknowledging all of that with each other. And that makes it, I think, easier to pull together to make everything go, I guess.
Yeah.
So no, there's no organization. I live and die by my Google Calendar and a lot of notes scattered everywhere.
I can imagine, like, when you're in the shop, you're worried about the farm, and when you're on the farm, you're thinking, I should be in the shop. I mean, that's probably the duality of it.
There is a little bit of that. I think it's the mental gymnastics required to bounce back and forth between what is basically now 3 different businesses between retail, weddings, farm. It's a lot, and it's probably not for most people, but it is ironic, maybe not ironic, that I ended up getting diagnosed with ADHD as part of my business. And it was, in part, like, all of the different things that I've done with it, but also when it gets really busy, things start to sort of crumble for me a little bit. So I ended up getting that diagnosis, made a lot of sense, and helped me to support myself better, support the business better, because suddenly I understood, okay, I've got to put some other safety nets in place. And sometimes I'm not organized at all, but a lot of times I am hyper organized, and I have to be.
Yeah, that's cool. Wow, Laura, I can't wait to visit Charleston and see your shop. I know we have another question for you, but I'm going to hold it to the end because I want to move on to our next guest, and that is Lisa Larson. So Laura, thanks so much. You're going to hang in for a little while so we can.
I am.
Okay,
Yeah.
Great. Hello, Lisa. Lisa Larson.
Hi.
Would you call yourself a farmer florist? You pretty much are, right? Or are you just
I
married
call
to the
myself
farmer?
a florist. I am no longer ever at the farm.
Okay. You just happen to be married to the family farm.
Yes.
Well, tell everybody about Sunborn Gardens. Do you have a different name for the retail business and the design business? It's like Sunborn Studios, or?
We do not. We're just Sunborn Gardens. So, the reasoning why is because we've been Sunborn Gardens since 1975. And that's not something that I'm just going to throw away with all that, what do you call it? all that marketing we've done all over the years, and just our name is out there as that. And that's what we were at the farmers market. That's what we are with our weddings over the last 10 years. And so I've just kept the name. And so, like you said, I married into this flower family. My husband is a second generation flower farmer. And so my days now are all spent here in the studio. And he brings me the flowers a couple times a week, because I'm never, like Laura, also ADHD, also taking on way too much, also not always the most organized. So we're always cutting multiple times a week just to like make sure that I have enough. And I'm always like over cutting flowers and things. So,
Wow.
But my story is very similar to Laura, where we were just so busy in weddings and working from such a small space, something had to change.
Well, tell us a little bit about where you're at. You're in Wisconsin. What is your market?
I'm close to Madison. So it is a very populated college town. And so weddings are booming here. The store is in Verona, which is just 15 minutes outside of Madison. And it's one of the fastest growing suburbs of Madison right now because of the Epic Medical Center. And I'm right on the main drag downtown Verona. So I have a lot of visibility. I have huge windows. I have my own parking lot. But it's been a really slow process to get in here for me. I was supposed to be in here in May, and with contractors and this cooler thing that they just could not figure out. I didn't get in until August 4th in the middle of wedding season. And so we're not really operating as a retail shop fully yet. Like, I'm not out there advertising that we're a retail shop. I'm telling my social media a little bit. We are open every day to the public if they want to come in and buy flowers, but we're not starting deliveries or just like really ramping up workshops until winter. I just got to get through wedding season at this point.
Wow. Well, since we got you on a Friday, I'm sure you have a couple weddings to do.
We got 2 of them today. So,
well, thank you for making the sacrifice to fit us in. Do you want to give us a little tour and walk around and show us what the space
is? Let's see if I can figure this out. I did this on my phone for a reason. Okay. I'm going to just go to the front to make it make more sense here. Okay. So this is my retail shop side. I have like a counter and I have stuff for sale. Everything in my store, I try to have a combination of local makers and farmers. And so we sell a lot of our dried flowers and cute stuff from the Midwest that I've sourced. So both on consignment and on traditional wholesale. And so this side is still pretty empty because we're still working on it. Tons of dried stuff right now.
Mm-hmm.
I have a team at the farm working on dried. And so then this barn door here, it slides open and covers that big window. So if I want to open up for workshops, I can. And then back through here, this space was just set up perfect for us as my design studio. People are busy working here. And I have a bathroom and an office and plumbing, things I never had at the farm. I didn't have plumbing. I didn't have heat. And then this is my CoolBot, double CoolBot cooler.
Oh my gosh. So what, the contractors couldn't figure out how to build that?
We had a lot of issues. Let me flip back.
Oh,
we had a lot of issues figuring out where to vent it. They were not allowing us to vent it inside, and we had to put it on an outside wall. And then we had like a really thick masonry wall there. It was just, and then with labor shortages all around the area, because this whole area is building up so quickly, it just took so much longer than we expected.
Mm. What is the square footage, Lisa?
1,500 square feet.
Wow. It looks so massive because the way you've got it organized. But one takeaway for me is that you really wanted a separate production space that just people walking in wouldn't necessarily see.
Yeah, I work in a very artist way. I don't neatly put everything in a garbage can next to me. I am just moving and going and making a big old art mess all the time. And I wanted that to not be seen, because that was the biggest thing about having people to my farm. Not only do we not live on our farm, I worked in this tiny little makeshift tree house made of old wood. And it was just like, I felt like I couldn't bring anybody to my space and also be seen as a legit florist. And so I love having like a beautiful space people can come to, and that, you know, I want to have weddings that have bigger budgets so I don't have to do so many, so I can spend more time with my children. And so I love being able to close it off. And because workshops have always been a thing people want from us, I needed the square footage, but you know, this space was just set up beautifully to begin with, that all I needed to do was add that barn door and that cooler. Yeah, and the rest just kind of fell into place.
What had been in that space before?
It was a retail, like little gift shop,
Mhm.
but she didn't want to sign a lease, and they were still renting it. And so once we found it, because it was really good price, we immediately just jumped on it. Like Laura, we had looked at other retail spaces and gotten really far in the process, and then all of a sudden something would change, like their square footage was different. All of a sudden that changed everything. And you know, so once you find the place that is the best price and the best layout, you kind of just have to go for it.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. So you're kind of phasing in, like, would you call this sort of a soft launch period? Like you're not really screaming, hey, we're retail, come in and shop
Yeah,
here.
like I'm almost like, give me a minute, I need to catch up on these weddings. But yeah, I just want it to be nothing pre-order right now. I just want people to come by what's out here, and if they see me, great. I have a lot of people that don't know who I am coming here, and that's always fun. But I have a pretty good social media following, and so I get enough word out to sell stuff, but not too much where it's taking me away from the wedding work I need to be doing right now. And then we'll adjust that load next year to be able to focus more on the retail as well. Because the whole point of this is not only to have the space to break that plateau we were at for weddings and just for sales in general on the farm, but to also like have a more work-life balance. I know a lot of us florists and farmers have no balance in the work-life situation. It's fully part of who we are. And that's not sustainable. So it's going to help that a lot.
Wow. I know that Debbie Bosworth had asked a question of Laura, and it looks like she answered it in the chat, but I think it would apply to you too. And you kind of addressed the issue of what products, non-floral products you have in the shop. Are you trying to avoid kind of the trap of going to the gift shows and, you know, I know there's a lack of availability of a lot of products. You said you were working with local makers. What did you decide to put in the shop?
Our biggest thing is our niche right now is kind of like being an eco-friendly design studio. We are using, like for these weddings that are going out the door, I think the only flowers that were brought in from California were 2 bunches of roses. Everything else is from our farm. Everything in the store is dried flowers from our farm. And then I do have other things from other farmers I know, because we've been part of that, like the biggest farmers market in the country for so long. So I have like organic CBD from my farmer friend, and I have candles from a maker in Milwaukee. And I'm just trying to really stay with what's really natural, what's really like more eco-friendly. Now, of course, I have like paper goods and stuff like cards, but that I'm trying to make the store feel like it's makers and farmers, almost like a mini farmers market, but in a more elevated, curated way.
Yeah, like a place that people want to come hang out in.
Yeah. And I love being able to have consultations here and pull out my vaseware. I feel like I was hiding my farm from the world, so they didn't know what I was actually paying no attention to the man behind the curtain. How is this really operating right now? Don't look at my like moldy wall, tiny little dirt room right now. Yes, I'm producing beautiful weddings, but don't look behind the scenes. And so now I can show everybody every part of it. And that feels really nice.
I love it. And it does really address the fact that the visual experience is part of your brand as well. And I think that Laura has that sort of experience, and maybe we'll save that conversation about community building to the end and have everybody jump in and talk about it. Lisa, thank you so much. It's so great to see your space, because I've just seen what you posted to social media. We'll jump in and go to our next wonderful retail diva, Kat Willrett. Hi, Kat.
Hello. I love that introduction.
Yeah, I guess you can all be retail divas. So Willrett Flower Co. has been your business name as a designer, a florist, and also a grower, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell everybody where you're located and kind of what happened. How did this retail happen?
Absolutely. So we are about an hour west of Chicago. So we're technically in DeKalb. We always kind of say it's where the city turns into like cornfields. My husband is a organic grain farmer, so we're like big farming community, but we're also very close to the city and like obviously the suburbs, huge metropolitan area.
And your design studio before this space was, and here's your business partner.
Yes, my business
Hi.
partner, sister, Mary Grace.
Hi, Mary Grace. So
Hi.
where were you guys operating in terms of producing the weddings, and what was a bigger piece of your pie? Design or growing? I guess I never knew that, realized
Yeah.
that.
So to kind of make a very, very long story short, I started the business back in 2016, only growing. And I don't even know if Lisa knows this, but I went to I think it was like a growers educational thing, maybe in like 2015. I knew absolutely nothing. Lisa and her husband were presenting and like several other local flower farmers. And I was just furiously taking notes and then really winged it for a couple years. So I started out at our local farmers market. That's all I was doing was farmers markets. And then people just started to ask about weddings, could you do our wedding? Meanwhile, my sister worked in Arkansas in a really big, amazing retail flower shop. And so pretty quickly here, the weddings kind of took over, and the bigger piece of the pie was weddings, and the growing kind of just phased itself out for the most part. And then last year, I convinced my sister to move her whole family here to join the business. So then we really had the opportunity to expand the amount of weddings we could do, the reach we could have, and to start dreaming up the retail shop, which is something that we'd really wanted to do together for a long time, but I did not have the capacity to do on my own.
Wow. Wow. And then Mary Grace, you have a strong retail background, so you were able to kind of lend your perspective but have it be your own store rather than be somebody else's, right?
Yeah, I had worked in a few retail shops, and I had spent several years working in a really kind of like high end, really successful, high volume one that was just a great training experience. So I feel like I got to learn, the ins and outs of designing for, high volumes of weddings, but also high volume deliveries and daily arrangements, that kind of thing. So that really was like, the best education I could have asked for opening a retail shop. And, we don't have a ton of experience with buying and the gift shop side of it, but it did give me, a little bit of experience with that area as well.
Well, it sounds like being with your gal pal, sister, or best friend, you just egg each other on and like take bigger risks because you have a partner.
For
Yeah,
sure,
we always think,
definitely.
we can do double the amount of things, and then somehow end up doing like quadruple the amount of things. So I think just to echo everybody here too, I kind of skipped over this part of your question, but my first studio was just literally like a part of an old sheep barn. And then we bought a new property, and there happened to be like a big metal building kind of shop there that we did most of our weddings out of. Did not have plumbing, did not have any of the things that we really needed, but we did have a big walk-in cooler that my husband built out there. So we made it work while we were kind of hunting for this space.
Well, let's see the space. Give us a little bit of a virtual tour.
I might need your help here. I'm on my
Here,
laptop.
you want me to?
Yes.
You want to give the tour and I'll walk you around? It's a little messy right now because we have 3 weddings this weekend.
Hey, no judgment. We all admire that. Oh, so the
really small. It's really, really tiny. So this is just our front door. And then the front half, it's split by no walls or anything, just our cash wrap. So up here, we've got all of our retail gifts. We've got kind of a few different sections, but some baby home decor, things like this. Then we've got our big tree install here.
Oh my gosh, how fun for
Seasonal
fall.
Fun stuff. And then we too had a contractor cooler debacle. So right now we have our little like retail cooler up here. We were not able to build our big walk-in in this space like we wanted to. So we still shuffle things back out to our old studio. I live on the same property, so it's not a huge deal. It's not perfect, but we're making it work. And then if you walk kind of back here, we've got a little flower bar too, which anyone that's thinking about retail, we had a lot of, like even Meg Grace's old shop, they didn't do that, but it's been amazing for us. So that's really the only floral we've got up here. And then the entire back half is all our workspace, and it is super small. We've got one teeny tiny little back room, and then all of our work tables, desks, everything back there. So it's all pretty crammed in. We still do use our old shop for a lot of our like arbors, rentals, like big columns, just large things we can't fit here. And it's like a building place for all of the props and stuff that we build ourselves. So yeah, this is pretty much it.
Adorable. And what's the square footage?
Oh yeah. And then we do have like kind of more of a like paper goods
Oh,
the
wow.
disco ball, the disco ball area.
Well, the square footage is what, like under 1,000 square feet?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's very tiny.
But you literally just did your grand opening like last weekend, right?
Literally Saturday. Yes. We've been in the space since April. We went back and forth on the cooler thing with the contractor forever. It kind of held us back there for a while. Then they also did a really large like revitalization project downtown, which was great, but we had like jackhammers right outside
They
our
ripped
front
up
door.
our sidewalk in front of our front door. So we like had to wait months to even get our reach-in cooler brought in. So that kind of slowed us down as well. But it was good because it gave us a chance to kind of get through the bulk of our wedding
Mhm.
season. Because that has been pretty crazy as well. So timing
Wow.
wise, it was nice. It worked out.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Saturday was our opening day for the retail shop.
And so the flower bar was sort of an interactive thing that people could come in and what they pay by the stem or.
Yeah. So the way do we do it? We just have everything individually priced. They pick it and then we just wrap it up, like we wrap any of our wrap bouquets and just charge by the stem.
And we really saw it just as an opportunity to use like the overflow from weddings, like the few
Mhm.
stems we have here and there, just the extra bits left over from weddings and maybe doing it only on Saturdays. But it was like by far like such a hit on Saturday. Like everyone loved it so much. And people have every single day been coming in and making bouquets. And so I think we're probably going to keep
Yeah.
doing it every day as long as people keep responding to it. And so it's something we want to, plan out our flower choices a little bit better because it's been like a last minute morning order from the wholesaler kind of thing all week because we keep selling out. And
That's
people have been
crazy.
responding to
Yeah.
it really well.
So since you've kind of wound down the growing side of it, Kat, at Willrett Farm, where are you sourcing most of your flowers?
Honestly, we are so lucky. We have so many good local flower farmers. Even when I did grow a lot, there were certain things that I was like, they just do that so much better than me that I'm not even going to bother with, mainly dahlias. So we have, I don't know if any of you on here are familiar with Clara Joyce. He's an incredible flower farmer. He has acres and acres of beautiful stuff. So we get huge amounts of things from him every week. We're honestly really dreading the first frost. And then between here and Chicago, there's a really amazing community of local growers. So we source as much from them as possible. And then again, just a few little things that we grow ourselves or forage. And then we do work with our local wholesalers as well.
Mm-hmm. That sounds great. Wow.
Local
And-
meaning more Chicago for
Yeah.
us, but local.
right. But then if you need American grown, they can get that
Yes,
for you from California or something.
exactly.
That sounds great. Well, you've answered some of the questions. Greta's asking questions in the chat about square footage. I think you said under 1,000 square feet.
Yeah,
just
it's
talked about.
pretty small.
So, do you envision this space being adaptable for workshops, or would you do them offsite?
Yeah, we've already done a few in here. Before we were open, we kind of did some little pop-up workshops and things like that. It definitely does require some planning on our part. We use our same design tables, kind of move everything around. I'm so jealous of looking at these other big spaces. They're amazing. But yeah, we've kind of just made it work. And even if that means shuffling some stuff to our old shop for us, we just reconfigure a little bit and do the workshops in the back space.
That's awesome. And then
Yeah.
just the question about winter sourcing, you've kind of addressed buying from the wholesaler. So you're kind of, because of weddings, you probably figured that out long ago. You can't get local flowers in the winter, really.
Unfortunately, here the options are really minimal. It gets very, very cold. Lisa's in Wisconsin. So our local options absolutely dwindle. But then again, lots of American grown options even throughout the winter.
Yeah, or dried, I guess, if you're able to.
Yeah, we do a lot of dried too.
That's awesome. Wow. Well, congratulations. I'm going to move to our last guest, and then we'll do a roundtable and let everybody jump in with a few final thoughts. Thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate Kat, and I'm happy to meet Mary Grace.
Yeah.
And Tamara is joining us from Morning Glory Flowers. She's in West Virginia, and some of you may recognize Tamara as the artist who created the Botanical Ladies for the American Flowers Week campaign. What was that, 2 years ago, Tamara? 3 maybe.
And now music's happening down the street.
Well, we don't hate you too much that you're in Portugal on vacation with your husband. That's okay. Why don't we show the video you shared, and then you and I can chat a little bit.
Okay.
Karen's going to tee it up. Oh, isn't it fun to watch? You must feel so accomplished.
My friend did that for me. And when you would ask about a video, I just said, I really want one that just shows community, because for me, that was the biggest part of opening Morning Glory Studio. We live in a really small town. It's got 2,000 people and one stoplight, and we have Glenville State University, which has 1,400 students, and everything was just drying up on Main Street. And my husband and I had a building, and the tenant was going to move out. She had a real estate business, and I said, could we just put in a shop, area where people are welcome?
Oh my gosh. So this is your building.
It is. Yeah, it was from the 1800s is when it started, and when it was built, and it was the first bank in town. So there's still the old vault in there and the old safe, and we thought we were just going to do cosmetic things, Deborah. And then, the floor joists were rotten. Of course, it's, from the 1800s. So we had a lot of infrastructure to do too, but I'm glad we did. And it's been a really sweet thing for our community and for me.
It's so interesting to see the storefront with the awnings and the pots, the beautiful pots and the beautiful front door. And I think everyone on here probably has the same reaction, which is sometimes you see these cute little spaces and you're like, that would be a great flower shop. And you probably looked at that real estate tenant and how the space worked for a while and kind of fantasized about, I could do something here.
Yeah, and it was chopped up in small little offices, so we had to take out walls in the front, and it's still not as big as I'd like, but it works. And then I had workshops on my farm, the farm that my husband and I live on, and he's got a really stressful job, so it's okay to do them there every once in a while, but it's not the public to just open.
Oh wow! So what is the square footage of the space?
Well, it's probably 1,200 feet, but it's with all the little chopped up areas in the back. So the building is where I do now my art therapy classes on Friday evenings after women get off from work. And it really allows for 5 or 6 people back there at a time comfortably.
And before this, how were you selling your flowers? Were you pretty much doing a CSA?
Right. I sell on a CSA, and then I deliver too, just in the Glenville area. So I now have a fall CSA, and I have a spring and summer this year for the first time. But yeah, this makes it a lot nicer, and people now have a place where they can come to and pick up bouquets, or where they can buy gifts. And another community thing that we do, we have friends who have a coffee farm in Columbia, and they make a Morning Glory blend. And so every once in a while, we'll put chairs out front to try to get community going, and have a little coffee shop, a little pop-up coffee shop, and people can come in and buy flowers and have coffee. And I sell the coffee blend there too.
That's so cool. Well, I've interviewed you before for when we did American Flowers Week together, and I got the sense that your art and your flower growing and floral design all kind of blend together. And I see this space as a perfect place for you to showcase your prints, your cards, some of the things that you've done that maybe you don't have the originals, but you photograph the originals and you make them into other paper goods. That you were doing that like at the farmer's market or something, or at craft shows, right?
At the farmer's market. And then I have an Etsy shop.
While we're trying to reconnect with Tamara, maybe Karen, let's get everybody on and who's already shared their story, and we'll ask a couple other follow-up questions about creating how this has really having a retail space has helped with community and your brand. Like people know who you are now, and in a different way you're reaching a new population of customers. Do any of you have any kind of examples you could share of how that's come together, where you're not just having to rely on social media, you have the brick and mortar presence, which is so important?
We've gotten so heavily into the Chicago wedding market that all of our weddings are in Chicago, and we're in a more rural area here. So we had people who'd been following us since we were at farmers market that we really didn't have a way to work with them, get them flowers, you know, even just support them as customers. And so having the retail shop literally only for a few days, there've been so many people that have come in and been like, oh, you know, I remember when you were at farmers market, now I can get flowers from you again. So it's been really fun to connect actually, like, you know, where we live, rather than just in the Chicago wedding industry.
That's great. Tamara, you're back?
Back. Thank you.
Good. There was a question before, I want to grab you before we lose you again about the art therapy workshops. And you started by saying community was your objective here. So tell us what that is and how that brings people into your space.
I could probably start, but it's really flower therapy. And we just call it that because women can unwind after their work. A lot of them are teachers on a Friday and it's been a full week. And we just laugh and have music and talk, and I bring in food, and it's sweet. And the part of the video where you would see the room and the women around it, that's what we were doing. And I'll try if they want. I bring books and we talk a little bit about design. But if they really just want to, what they say, play in the flowers, that's okay too. Yeah, it's been really a fun time, and it's brought more people and traffic into the studio too.
So they pay a small fee to come to the flower therapy night, or
they pay a fee, and then I'll have their vases ready. Sometimes I'll have just like extra vases I have, and then they can choose one off of the shelf. And then sometimes I'll have one ready for them with chicken wire and taped and everything. So they're just ready to work when they get there.
I love it. Well, before we wrap up, we have about 5 more minutes. Lisa had said she's willing to talk a little bit about the finances. And so I'm going to start with Lisa. And if anybody else feels comfortable sharing kind of how they made this work financially, I know people are probably asking themselves, could I do this? And what would it cost? So Lisa, I thank you for offering, and tell us how you made this pencil out.
Yeah, I feel like when you have these kinds of talks, that's going to be on everybody's mind. And I know sometimes it's taboo to ask. For us, I think a lot of it has to do with our longevity. We are able to walk right into a bank and get a loan. We have the numbers, we have the years, and you know, we wrote a whole business plan and everything, and there's like, we don't even need that. Thank you. And that was really helpful for us though, to write it all down and to be like, is this going to check out? Because like, I need to take this risk or I need to stop because this isn't working where I am. So we did take a $40,000 loan from the bank. It cost us $40,000 to renovate the space. We got a $10,000 grant from the city, from the state, because they were doing like if you move into a vacant building, you get a grant because of the pandemic or whatever.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And so half of that cost, I want to say, was our cooler. Because it is so large, and it did take so many specialty guys, as Kat was saying. It's great. It is not easy to just put a cool bot in. They don't know, people aren't used to working with them. Big sales like booked ahead of time to rely on, so we knew it wasn't as risky. And then the rent is pretty cheap. It's only $1,500 a month. And so even if our retail didn't sell a thing, we knew our weddings could support it. And so I think going in with that mindset felt really nice.
I cut you off, but you answered the question I was going to ask, which is, can you cover that $1,500 rent with cash flow? And I guess the other thing is, are your designers sort of cross-trained so they can cover the retail space? Because I know, like Laura mentioned, she had to have a very retail specific employee to handle her shop.
I kind of train everybody in everything. I do have a full-time designer with me who worked at a Flora shop for 2 years, but she's doing weddings with me. And I do have 2 farm girls that farm, but also because it was so hard to find labor, I've now trained to do design. And so we're just all jacks of all trades here. So that if somebody walks in, we can make a bouquet. But I like to have most things pre-made because, like Kat said, it's nice to just put the overflow out. Like I'm cutting my farms for weddings, but I'm ordering them by the bucket from my husband. So I'm like having him overcut all the time. And so it's nice to just put out what I have to give, and it's still all fresh and wonderful. And so nothing's really custom yet until winter when we do deliveries. But that's like, we sell all our weddings, all our everything on kind of designer's choice. Weddings, you get to choose a color palette, but you don't get to choose your flowers. So that way we can stick to local and domestically grown.
That's great. Thanks for that. Laura, do you want to talk a little bit about how you made this, swung this? Because I know obviously you had to play with numbers for a year before you actually found a space that you were able to rent.
Yeah, actually, the logistics of finding the space were more about the shortage of space in Charleston. But so my financial story sounds very similar in that I started out with a SBA loan. And then also because of the farm was able to go through several different grant programs to get funding specifically because we are a farm, but the store does very much serve a purpose for the farm, the cooler, sales and all that stuff. So those are the primary ways I came by funding. And I'm sure every small or every business owner has this experience of thinking, yeah, I can get it done for 40 grand. No, you can't. It will always be more. It will always take longer. It's just sort of the unfortunate way of things. But I knew that from the beginning. And I think if you go in with the mindset of it will cost more, take longer, it's a little bit easier, but still it's a lot of headaches.
But also you probably had the similar situation with a lot of weddings booked into 2022 and 2023. So you kind of had a little bit of a forecast on cash flow, right?
Good, definitely.
That's really reassuring. And what was the space before you moved in? What was in that shop?
Oh, it was a real estate office. And so all that shelving they had as an example of shelves you could have installed as custom closets. And they were like, we're going to take that with us. And then I think they realized how difficult that was going to be to uninstall. And they're like, you can have it. So we got really very lucky.
That's awesome. It looks good. It's perfect for merchandise. And are you going to have workshops in the space as well?
We are having workshops, and that's been amazing to have it. So when we just had the farm, I would have loved to have hosted workshops, but it's really hard to convince people to drive 30, 45 minutes out of the city to go attend a workshop. And now all of a sudden we've got this great, big, beautiful space to welcome the community to. And so we've already done a handful of workshops, and the community has just been really amazingly responsive.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, you all are sort of talking about this theme of engaging with a community and being present. And I feel like in this whole era of hand wringing about the retail brick and mortar mom and pop flower shop is going by the wayside, you're all counter trend. You're all saying, well, there's a new way to do a flower shop, and it's going to be built around relationships and unique, not the cookie cutter product mix, but unique products that are about where you live and your community. And so I don't know, I'm just really inspired to hear about what you're all doing. And I think that this will maybe spark some inspiration to get a few other people maybe who've been thinking about doing retail to take the leap. So I'm going to just do a quick round robin and ask each of you to give your final bit of advice to wannabe retail florists, and what you wish someone had told you before you started. Kat, you go first.
Yeah, I feel like this is kind of cliche to say, but I would really say that the thing that's worked well for us in every stage of our business was to just find the thing that really differentiated us in our area. There are several old school flower shops. None of them source locally. None of them do like more of a, I want to say modern, but like a garden style design. And even in the items we have in the shop, we were really careful and specific about what we chose so that we were not the same as the other gift shops or the other flower shops in the area.
That's great.
I agree with Kat, just being authentic to who you are. Like the whole store should feel like your brand, like everything you make, your style. I think that will set you apart, and you don't have to compete with anybody because you're just different automatically. And then, like that was mentioned before, if they tell you a timeline in construction, double it. Expect it to go double as long.
Okay, reality check. Tamara, you're your own landlord, so but it sounds like you had a lot of expenses to turn this old chopped up, cubicle space into a beautiful retail space. So I don't want to jump to conclusions, but tell us what your advice that you wish you had or that you want to share.
It's maybe a little bit more work than I thought. on a day because I don't have anybody else working the farm. Sometimes my daughter will if she's in. It means when the sun rises, I'm cutting flowers and then I'm getting ready to take them. But it's in the end, it's really worth it. And I need to work still on pricing and getting my prices up to where they need to be. I've heard so many people say that and on your show before. And just be willing to be passionate about it. And when somebody asks for help, take it. It's okay. If people they do whatever, it's part of the community and they want to. But it really does help me and the landlord too, because not paying the overhead of that has given me space, and I really appreciate that.
Right.
And my husband is really supportive and out there chilling or hoeing and mowing, and we make it work.
I love it. Yeah, and maybe you just get a little breathing room to take some more risks because of your situation of being the landlord, but you eventually have to make this sustainable. So I can see you're scrutinizing that. Thanks. Laura, any last advice you want to share before we wrap up? This has been so fun.
I would say I am currently undergoing a lesson in delegating and learning how to turn loose of tasks that I've been the only one doing all this time. But the more complex your business gets, the less you just cannot do everything.
Yeah.
So I'm getting ready, I think, to hire a marketing agency for the first time, just because I cannot keep up with all the social media and intricacies and with the added complexities of trying to get people physically into a space. I have just come to the realization of I got to bring in help. And that has been the entirety of my business, is realizing I've got to bring in help. So the community is not just us reaching out to the community, but building the community of people who are going to support this business is something greater than what I originally dreamed it would be.
That's beautiful. I mean, I appreciate all of you. I asked you to do this and you all said yes. And I can tell that you're all super busy. Karen was messaging me saying it's fun to see the arrangement behind Kat come to life during the hour.
Really good.
So you've all peeled back the curtain and showed us all the, I guess, the working side of your business, as well as the beautiful consumer facing retail side of the business. And it's been really inspiring. So we'll keep the conversation going. And in Slow Flowers Journal, our quarterly magazine, we're dedicated to doing a feature every quarter called Where We Bloom, kind of inspired by the book Where We Bloom, which Tamara is in. So if you check out your copy, you'll see the story about morning glory flowers. But I think this idea of having a space that reflects you and your business is really powerful and does differentiate yourself. So we'll keep the conversation going. Next month, we're going back to the second Friday, our regular schedule. And so we'll be meeting on Friday, October 14th, and we'll announce the topic very soon. In the meantime, follow everybody who our 4 guests today. Show them your love and encouragement on social media, and we'll be sharing the replay video of this in a few weeks. So thank you all so much. And Tamara, Lisa, Kat, and Mary Grace and Laura, thank you all so much for joining us today. It's been really fun and really great to see everybody.